My parents forged my name, stole my scholarship, and blamed me when the lawsuit hit. Hi, I'm Steve, and in the morning of my high school graduation was the day I realized I was just an ATM with straight A's. My parents stole my $22,000 scholarship and gave it to my brother so he could launch another one of his fantasy businesses. No warning, no apology, just, you'll figure college out. And that's when I stopped being the dependable one and became the problem they never expected. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even flinch when my mother casually said over coffee that my scholarship money had been reallocated to fund Andrew's latest startup idea. All I could do was stare at the refrigerator like it might explain this insanity back to me. I had been up since 6:30 that morning. I'd planned my day down to the minute. Get dressed, iron my gown, double-check my valedictorian speech, and leave early for photos. I didn't factor in a financial betrayal so stupid and cruel, it felt like satire. We decided to help him, my mom said, sipping her lavender tea like this was normal. It's family money. We all pitch in for each other. Funny, I didn't remember anyone pitching in when I was writing college essays at a M with a calculator in one hand and scholarship deadlines in the other. My dad, who usually stayed silent during these morning family talks, added with full dad certainty, "You're smart. You'll figure something out." Yeah, I figured something out all right. I left for graduation without another word, stood up on that stage, delivered my speech like my entire future hadn't been erased with the wire transfer. I thanked them publicly for their support. I shook hands. I smiled. I played the part, but in my pocket was the printout. The one that confirmed the funds were dispersed to my university. And after the ceremony, I went to my room and opened my laptop. I filed a fraud report. I froze every account. And I sent one single email to the director of the Scholarship Foundation with all the documents. 2 weeks later, my dad showed up at my dorm room, pale, shaking, and not because he missed me, because the investigation had just begun. My dorm room was barely unpacked when he knocked 3 sharp, anxious raps that didn't sound like a father visiting his son, more like a man waiting for bad news to land. I opened the door, and there he was, pale, thinner, gripping the strap of a laptop bag like it was a lifeline. "We need to talk." I stepped aside, silently. He walked in, looked around at the barren walls and twin bed, like he didn't recognize my life. Maybe because he never bothered to ask about it. "You filed a complaint." His voice wasn't angry, it was scared. I sat at my desk, calm, quiet. I'd practiced this in my head a dozen times. "Yes, you stole $22,000 from me. That's called fraud." "You don't understand, Stephen," he said, hands out like I was missing some vital context. "Andrew needed that money to get his business off the ground. This wasn't about hurting you, no," I said. "It was about ignoring me." He paced. "They're freezing our accounts. The foundation wants restitution. There's talk about criminal charges. Your mother hasn't slept in days. She should have stayed up the night before not stealing from her son." He stopped. His face twisted into something between shame and rage. "You're going to destroy this family." I stood. Finally, the weight of everything rising to meet me. "No, you destroyed it. I just told the truth." He stared at me for a long moment. Then came the plea. "Just call them. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Say you signed off and forgot. You can fix this." I shook my head. "I'm not protecting you from the consequences of what you did. You made your choice. Now you live with it." He stepped closer, dropping the act. "We could lose the house. I could lose my job. Andrew's business is dead before it started. Is that what you want?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about every time I stayed quiet so Andrew could yell. Every time I skipped a movie night to tutor kids for $10 an hour. Every time I let them call me the easy one. I thought about how I wasn't even invited to dinner the night they moved my money behind my back. So I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I want you to remember that I was the one who earned that scholarship. I did everything right. You didn't just steal money. You stole my work. And now the people who gave me that scholarship, they're going to take back what's theirs." He left without another word. The next morning, Miss Robinson from the Scholarship Foundation called. The forged notary had been confirmed. The university's legal team was getting involved. A restitution case was being prepared, and I knew without touching a thing, without raising my voice, Without lifting a finger, I had just shaken the house that raised me to its core. The emails came first, then the calls, then the silence. My mother tried to be gentle at first, soft voice, sugar-coated panic. "Steven, sweetheart, we need to fix this before it gets worse. We made a mistake, but we're family. Oh, apology. No ownership. Just a warm blanket draped over a knife." I didn't reply. Then came Andrew. He texted, "Bro, we need to talk." Then, "Why are you doing this?" Then finally, "You're ruining his everything." Because apparently, my future had just been spare change in his business blueprint. But the real shift came when the university's financial aid office called me back in. Mr. Sanchez looked grim. "The legal department has referred your case to the district attorney. They've confirmed the withdrawal was based on a forged document. The notary was fake." He leaned forward. "Steven, I need to ask, do you want to press charges?" The room felt quiet in a new way, like the walls were waiting for my answer. I hesitated. Not because I had doubts, but because pressing charges meant crossing a line. It meant courtrooms and attorneys. It meant looking my parents in the eye and saying, this was not just a betrayal, it was a crime. Mr. Sanchez must have seen it on my face. "You don't have to decide now, but the university has policies. We're required to report fraud." Later that day, Miss Robinson called again. Her tone was clipped. "Your parents are being given 30 days to repay the full $22,000 plus $3,000 in penalties. If they fail, we will pursue legal recovery, liens, garnishments, whatever is necessary." Thanked her and hung up. That night, Andrew called. Again. This time, I picked up. "Steven, man, you're blowing this way out of proportion." "Am I?" I asked. "They said the foundation's threatening to sue. We could lose the house. You're going nuclear over some misunderstanding." I said nothing. "I didn't even know it was your scholarship money," he added. "They told me it was from their savings." I almost laughed. "So you launched a company with $22,000 and didn't even ask where it came from?" Silence. Then he said, "I thought you were the smart one." "I am," I replied. "That's why I'm done being quiet." Click. The next week, my parents hired a lawyer, or tried to. He sent me a letter asking me to clarify my statements and consider retracting the complaint to preserve family unity. I read it once. Then I forwarded it to Miss Robinson with the single sentence, "I will not be intimidated into silence." The line had been crossed. The mask was off. I wasn't their son anymore. I was the threat. But I didn't care, because for the first time in my life, they were afraid of me. They always said I was the quiet one, the one who didn't need babysitting, the one who did his homework without being asked, the one who could be trusted not to cause problems. They confused silence with loyalty. Now, they were learning the difference. It had been 2 weeks since the investigation began. My phone buzzed with updates, emails from the Scholarship Foundation, calls from the university, one brief voicemail from my aunt whispering, "What's going on? Your mom is falling apart." Good. Because I had fallen apart first. My parents had stopped pretending. The calls turned hostile. My mother left a voicemail where she sobbed mid-sentence, saying, "You're killing us, Steven. Please stop this. Your father's health is getting worse. Andrew is devastated. You're throwing your whole family away over money." No, they threw me away for money, and now I was sending the bill. The university confirmed that the forged release form had been submitted by fax from my father's office. His company email was used as the return contact. The fake notary stamp, copied from a real form and digitally altered. Sloppy work, and the legal department had receipts. I didn't need to lift a finger. The truth did all the work for me. But I wasn't just waiting anymore, I was preparing. I moved into a proper dorm room now that my scholarship had been reinstated. I switched my bank deposits entirely to an individual account. I began consulting a student legal advisor, not to escalate, but to make sure I understood every protection I had. I was learning that power wasn't about shouting, it was about knowing. Knowing your rights. Knowing your leverage. Knowing when silence cuts deeper than confrontation. And then it happened. A knock on my door. Midweek afternoon. I opened it to find my father. Not storming. Not yelling. Just standing there. Sweating through his button down. His eyes sunken like someone who hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," he said, voice low. I didn't step aside. I know we messed up, he continued. But this is too much. The house, the accounts. Your mother can't breathe. She's having panic attacks. Andrew, can't get funding. They've frozen everything. We're drowning. You stole from me, I said. I didn't mean, he began, but I cut him off. You forged my name. You faked a notary. You lied to a university and a scholarship foundation. You committed actual crimes. And now that it's uncomfortable, you're here asking me to fix it? He blinked, like I had just slapped him. I'm your father, he said, almost in disbelief. And I was your son, I replied. But you didn't act like it. You treated me like a savings account. And now the withdrawals are over. He swallowed hard. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you authorized it. You can end this. I stepped back. You ended this the morning you chose Andrew's dreams over my reality. He turned, shoulders sagging, and walked away without another word. I closed the door gently. Then I exhaled. For the first time in weeks, my hands weren't shaking, because they finally understood something I had always known deep down. You don't protect people by staying quiet. You protect yourself by not letting them get away with it. The lawsuit came fast. Not from me, from the Scholarship Foundation. Ms. Robinson called first. We've obtained a court order freezing your parents' assets. This includes their joint accounts and any property equity that could be liquidated to recover the $25,000 in damages. I thanked her. She didn't ask how I felt. I think she already knew. The university followed suit. Their legal department officially referred the forgery to the district attorney for criminal investigation. I received a notification from Mr. Sanchez confirming the case had been assigned to a fraud investigator. The word criminal still echoed in my mind. It felt surreal, like I had pushed a boulder down a hill, and now it was flattening everything in its path. Andrew called again. I didn't answer. Then he tried a new tactic. He emailed, subject, let's be adults. Body, I had no idea the money was yours. Mom and Dad told me it came from savings. You know, I'm not good with details like that. I'm trying to start something real here, and you're blowing everything up. Be better than this. We're brothers. I didn't reply, because brothers don't let brothers sink for their lifeboats. Later that week, Sophia, Andrew's ex-girlfriend, DM'd me on Instagram. We'd barely spoken before. She wrote, "Hey, I just wanted to say I read what happened. I believe you. Andrew did the same kind of thing to my uncle, borrowed money for a project. Never paid him back. Your parents always made excuses. You're not crazy. Stay strong." It hit me harder than expected. Validation from someone who had seen it firsthand. Someone they couldn't gaslight. Then came the real turning point. A manila envelope slid under my dorm room door on Tuesday. It was from the district attorney's office. Inside, a subpoena list, a request for interview, a formal summary of the investigation into forgery, identity theft, and misappropriation of educational funds. I sat on my bed holding it like it might explode. Later that day, my mom texted for the first time since the coffee shop meltdown. "Mom, Stephen, please. This is going too far. We made mistakes, yes. But jail? Your father is terrified. What do you want? What can we do to make this right?" I stared at that message for 10 minutes. What did I want? An apology? Too late. The money? It was being recovered bit by bit. A relationship? That ship had sunk before they ever touched my scholarship. What I really wanted was simple. To not be invisible anymore. So I replied. Me. I want you to stop pretending this was anything but theft. I want you to understand that I didn't ruin this family. You did. When you picked Andrew's fantasy over my future. No answer. Screenshotted it. Saved it. Filed it in the same folder with the others. They always told me to be mature, to handle things quietly, to keep the peace. But peace had a price. And for 18 years, I was the only one paying. Not anymore. Now, every lie came with the receipt. Every betrayal had a timestamp, and every single one of them was going on record. They always said I was the responsible one. What they meant was, you'll take the hit so we don't have to. But now, every hit they tried to dodge was ricocheting back where it belonged. By late September, the fallout was no longer theoretical. The foundation's restitution suit had locked down my parents' joint checking account. My dad's wages were being garnished. A lien had been placed on the house. Andrew's so-called business was reduced to a Wix homepage and an empty Instagram handle, and I was finally just a student. I went to class. I joined the economics club. I shelved books part-time at the library. I made exactly 3 friends, all of them unaware that a few weeks ago I was being asked to lie to federal investigators to save my parents from prison. Sometimes that weight crept back in. Like when I passed a family of 3 on the quad and felt the instinctive ache of missing something I never really had. But most days, I just felt free. Oh, my mom showed up, unannounced. On a Tuesday, I came back from econ, and there she was sitting on the bench outside my dorm, hair perfectly curled, jacket too formal, a shopping bag at her feet, like this was some kind of casual visit. "Steven," she said, standing too quickly. "Please, just 5 minutes." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. "Hot cookies," she added, holding up the bag. "Chocolate chip. My favorite. The same ones she used to bake after fights to pretend we never had them." "You came to talk about cookies?" "No," she said, her voice cracking. "I came to talk about your father. He's not doing well." I folded my arms. "They're talking about prosecution. Jail. He hasn't slept. He won't eat. He's a wreck." "Good," I said. "He should be." She blinked, stunned. As if the boy who'd always smiled through betrayals had disappeared and left someone dangerous in his place. "Steven, we're your parents. We made a terrible decision. But we didn't kill anyone. Do you really think this punishment fits the crime?" "Yes," I said. "Because the crime wasn't just theft. It was erasure. You didn't just take money, you took my chance. And you only care now because it finally costs you something." She looked down, glistening. "What do you want me to say?" "I don't want you to say anything," I said. "I want you to stop pretending you're the victim." She reached into her coat and pulled out a check, handed it to me. $2,000, she said. "It's all we could get together. Please tell them we're trying. Maybe they'll go easier." I didn't take it. "You should have thought about that before you forged my name." She stood there a moment longer, waiting for something, pity, mercy, maybe a hug I hadn't offered since middle school. But I turned and walked away. Later that night, she emailed me a scanned letter, handwritten, rambling, apologetic in the way people apologize to clear their own conscience. The last line stuck out. "No matter what happens, you're still our son." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry when I read it. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. It's funny what freedom actually feels like. Not like a movie montage. Not like some epic revenge moment where the villain goes to jail and you walk off into a sunset. It feels like waking up in a room that's finally quiet. Like checking your bank account and seeing only your name on it. Like walking across campus and knowing that if your parents ever call again, you don't have to pick up. The district attorney decided not to press criminal charges in the end. I got the official email on a chilly Friday morning in October. The subject line read, "Case closed. University fraud investigation." The DA had reviewed the evidence: clear forgery, misuse of funds, intent to deceive, but opted for restitution over prosecution, citing first-time offense and ongoing repayment. Part of me felt disappointed, like I'd trained myself for this final act of justice, and instead got a settlement and silence. But the other part, the one that hadn't slept in peace for years, it exhaled. The Scholarship Foundation, impressed with my cooperation and the volume of evidence I provided, not only reinstated my full award, they covered the tuition gap caused by the frozen funds during the investigation. I didn't owe a single cent. Not anymore. They also sent a handwritten letter. Miss Robinson wrote, "You handled this with a level of maturity and professionalism well beyond your years. We stand by our decision to invest in you." I pinned that letter above my desk. It reminded me of who I actually was, not who they told me I had to be. As for my family, well, Andrew's consulting firm never materialized. The business address he'd listed on his website turned out to be a co-working space he visited once and never paid for. He'd spent most of the money on branding, gadgets, and a second-hand Tesla he had to return when the lien hit his credit. Last I heard, he moved back home, works a customer support job remotely, and tells people he's between ventures. My parents are making monthly payments to the foundation, $1,040.26, automatically withdrawn every 5th. The lien on the house is still active. My father had to take a pay cut when the incident reached his company's ethics board. None of them speak to me, except for one last message, Thanksgiving morning. A group text from my mom. We're having a small dinner tonight. If you want to stop by, the door's open. No expectations. Just family. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed 2 words. Not coming. I hit send. Blocked the thread. Turned my phone off. Instead of turkey and tension, I spent the evening in the dorm lounge with a couple of friends. We played board games, ate takeout, laughed until midnight. And no guilt. No performance. No pretending to be the good son. Just me, earning my peace. Winter came fast that year. Snow dusted the campus lawns like powdered sugar, and for the first time, I noticed how beautiful it all was, how different the world looked when you weren't carrying someone else's debt on your back. I got a job tutoring freshman calculus. Nothing major, just a few hours a week. But it felt good, stable, mine. Sometimes, I'd see families visiting students in the quad, moms with care packages, dads carrying duffels, siblings tagging along, and a part of me would flinch. Then I'd remember, I didn't lose my family, I escaped them. A week before finals, I got one last letter in the mail. Not from them. From the foundation. A card. Inside, Miss Robinson had written, "You stood up when it mattered. Not just for your education, but for your dignity. That courage will take you further than any scholarship ever could." I smiled, folded it, tucked it in the back of my notebook. I don't know where my parents are now emotionally, whether they still blame me, whether they ever truly understood what they did. But I know where I am, 18, in college, free. And when people say things like, blood is thicker than water, I smile and think, so is concrete. And I finally built my foundation, solid, unshakable. Mine.